Hi there, I'm Nancy McKinnon, and I am going to be the captain of the space team today. The first thing I want to tell you is that I was one of 4 people that designed these planets that I think most of you have found in Janesville. And I did Mercury, Mars, and Venus. When we did the planets for the solar system that are already out there, they were to me like a rehearsal for the next part of this, except what we're going to do today, they're much smaller. This is what you all have. This is what I have. It's exactly the same. This is the side we're going to pour paint on. This side is taped off for you so that you won't get a lot of paint on that back. So when everything is dry, this will come off and then your planet will be almost complete. So it would be a good time to probably get your kit out and line things up so that when I say we're going to pour on the planet now, you're going to have this right in front of you. Oh, I need to ask you guys one very important thing. All right. Now I can't see you, but I know Allison will check up on you. Okay. I want you to start thinking about what the universe, what a galaxy looks like. And the best way to do this is to close your eyes. I mean, really close them tight. Don't be looking at each other. Don't be looking at the camera. Nobody's going to look at you. Close your eyes and imagine what the universe looks like. If you've ever been to Disney World, you may have been through Spaceship Earth, or maybe you've been outside in the summer and lay down and look up at the stars. This is what I want you to really, really think about, okay? And as soon as I tell you, you can open your eyes, then you're going to see something kind of fun. Has everybody got their eyes closed?
Yep.
All right. All right, you can open your eyes. Okay, so guess what? This is one of the pieces that I've already done, and it's just laying on my black mat. And what we're going to do is just try to look at these color planets and get an idea of how your piece is going to look. These pieces of paint are actually the drippings off of what I did, the pouring. Like when this is up a little high and it drips off the sides, I let these dry and then I cut them up and make some really fun things. So that's just a nice little way to see what we're going to do right now. All right. So I have 5 or 6 colors of paints here. I think you all have 5. When I like to pour paint, I like to take all my colors and put them in front of me and then decide what order I want to do this in. There, that's better. Okay. So I have white, pink, kind of a sky blue, kind of a teal, a dark blue, and a purple. You guys have 5. Don't worry about that. So when I pour paints, I take a cup, and I'm not going to do the demonstration right now, but I want to make sure that you have all your paints together and your cup so you can see what I will be doing. Make sure the top is on tight. If these have been out in the cold, those little tops may loosen up. Make sure they're tight before you shake them. Otherwise, somebody at your house is not going to be real happy. All right, so mine are all shook up real nice. And when it comes to pouring the paints, I'll try to get this as close as I can so you can see what I'm doing. But I'm going to actually, and the top is still on, but I'm going to pour them on the side of the cup so that it goes down the side, not like this, but down the side. And I will layer each color separate. I'm not going to mix them at all. They are going to be laying on top of each other. So we're going to get to that in a minute. So I want you to have all those ready. Let's talk about the type of pourings that you can do. I have a couple more. This one is with a lot of blues and yellows. And this is something that is very, very simple to do. You pretty much take a cup of paint and you just stand there and you pour. You don't move your hand, you just pour until all the paint is gone. And then we tilt it. We just tilt it around until it looks like something we like. That's called straight pouring, okay? This one, I'll try not to get the glare there. This one is a ring pour, which is very similar to the straight pour, except when I take the cup and the paint, I pour it, and then I just kind of do a little, like I'm making a little circle. And that makes all of these real pretty rings. Okay, so the straight pour and the ring pour are very similar. This one that you first saw is what I would call the volcano. All the paints are going to be in the cup, and what happens is I take the piece, and all of you have a grown-up with you, I'm sure, and that person can help you, but I put it over. This is full of paint. I put it like that, and then I very gently turn it. The key is you hold that cup tight, not so tight that it bends, but let's try it again. So all we do is like this, and then you can put it down, and then we're going to lift the cup kind of like that, and that's how this turns out. All the colors just kind of spread all over very quickly. So there's actually two ways to do this. One is the volcano, and then these two are pretty much the same. You pour it straight. You can jiggle a little to get those lines on that one. Okay, so before I start showing you that, I have another person in the group. You can unmute Oliver. And his name is Oliver Melson, and he's from Clinton. And he's actually been painting with me for the last 4 years. He's 14 years old, and he is going to do 2 pourings, just like I'm going to do. And you will be able to see the difference between what he does and I do. And we're going to do it exactly the same, but they're going to just turn out so different. So I'm going to start by doing the volcano, and then Oliver is going to do a straight pour. And then when he's done, I'm going to do the straight pour, and then he's going to do the volcano. So you're going to be able to see 4 different planets done. And that's when we're going to have you guys start yours. All right, so I chose some colors today that I don't work with a lot of purples and pinks, but today I am for some reason. So, excuse me, I got a little alien in my throat or something here. So I'm going to shake up my paints, and number 1 rule, I usually wear gloves because most of my clothes have paint on them, and I'm going to try to keep a couple shirts free of paint today.
Admirable.
Yes, admirable. All right. If your gloves are too loose, try to tuck them in by the fingers a little bit. And if they're too tight, that's almost better because it'll be easier to pick things up without finger tripping, as I guess I call it. Okay, so I'm going to put the planet aside, and I'm going to pull the camera down. I'm going to see my face for a while. All right. So I'm going to start with a little white, and let's see how good this comes out because they've been sitting here for a week or so. So I'm just pouring it in the cup down the side. And my cup is probably a little different than yours, but I want this to have about a 1/2 inch from the top. So I would say the cup will be at least 2/3 full. Everybody hear me all right? Okay, so I'm putting in pink. You see how it's just going down the side and not straight down. And give it a good squirt. Oh, what's next to pink? How about purple? And I'm going to try to get through these with 2 layers. And then that should, Oh, that's all right. That's too late now.
That's kind of wanted you to know.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so if you look at your cup from the inside, look straight down, you should see little circles of paint that, it's hard to see this here. Let's see if I can move that a little bit. Okay, good. I think I'll go back. No, I'll use the dark blue now. I kind of want to go some lights, some darks. Oh, that'll be nice. One more pink. A little blue. This is a teal. It's really pretty. Got a little metallic in it. A little white again. Getting towards the top. I don't usually paint with such small bottles. This is what I usually use, so I have to kind of judge where I am here. Okay, I think I'm done, and I am about maybe even 3/4 full. If you go a little too much, that's all right. Don't go too little, otherwise we might have to pour some more paint. Try to move your paints away from your work area, because all of a sudden when you're starting to tilt things and move things around, you don't want to knock anything over. How pretty this is. All right, here we go. This is by far one of the most fun things to do. All right, let me get this a little more centered. All right, spin it around. This is not going to stay on here. When I'm done, it's going to be moved to, I have some little painter things I get at Menards in the paint department, so sometimes I use these. But I'm going to put them next to me so that when I'm ready to stop tilting, I can put them on there and then I will move them to another location. If you had a level at your house, I put that on, that's close enough. I sometimes, if it was really a tilted table and that happened, I'd say, oh, better go back and make sure you put something under the base or under your cups just to make sure it's level. All right, so this is what we talked about before. I'm going to put the top of the, better?
Perfect.
I'm going to put the top, the side we're going to pour on is going to go over my cup. And try to get it towards the middle. Then I put my hand down so that I have a good hold of it and I turn it over.
And if anybody's kind of following along with Nancy right now, you might want to just pause and watch as she does this pouring part.
Right. So what we do is we kind of give it a little tap, because all that paint was, of course, on the bottom of the cup, and now we need to get it down. So when I lift this up, the first thing that most people do is they go, ooh, ooh, that is cool, very cool. So if you say that, that's great, then I know you like it. If you don't like it, you know what? There's always more paint that we can put on. So sometimes these are absolutely stunning, and sometimes I go, I wish I had more blue or more pink or whatever, and then I might put a little more in. So, and again, I've got a turntable, you guys don't, but I'm just going to be able to show you when I'm turning it that you can see it all. Okay, I'm ready to go. And let's see. If Kenley's on the call, Kenley always used to say, it's a volcano. And then I very slowly let the paint drip out of the cup, because I want to use everything on here. Okay, so then I put the cup aside And I'm just going to give it a minute because it has to spread out a little bit. So it's still spreading a little. You can just, I would wait about 30 seconds or so and let it spread out.
You can really see it now.
Oh, good. All right, now I'm going to move my turntable. And of course, whatever is underneath your planet should be something that you don't care about, because it is going to get a little messy. Now, all I'm going to do very, very slowly is tilt this until it covers most of the surface. This was the Volcano technique. Again, I'm going very slow. I have a lot more paint if I need it, but I think we're going to be good here. And if you go too fast, it's going to be all over your table, and then you might have to use more paint. But if you just tilt it slowly, try to get close to the edge, but not going over yet. Okay, now mine is just starting to go over, and that's okay.
Yeah, that looks good. I don't have much glare. Ooh, we've got some really neat ones going on while you do this too.
Oh, fun. Now, once it goes over, try to hold your planet from underneath, and that's a little hard because there's not much of a area between the edge and the bottom, but just try not to touch it too much. I kind of like leaving one spot where there's no paint, and then that'll be the last spot I do. Okay, now my cup was about 3/4 full, and that is plenty of paint.
Yep, so when you fill your cup, you want to fill it about probably up to the top of the design, I would say.
Yeah, they have different cups.
Oh, they have different cups, sorry.
Have your grown-up helper do about 3/4 full.
Yeah.
Okay, now I know I have plenty of paint, and what I want to do is kind of swirl this a little bit.
You see, everyone see how Nancy's bringing the paint kind of down and around?
Because I want to make it look more like a circle, because planets are, they're like a ball. And if you have one side that's a little darker than another, it kind of looks like it's in the shadow, and maybe the other side is brighter, where maybe the sun would be shining on that planet. And like I said, just go slow.
Now, if they don't have quite enough paint, can they
can put some more in the cup.
Okay, so if you don't have quite enough paint to fill your whole planet, you can kind of do a second pouring.
Yep. Mm-hmm. But maybe do it more towards the outside.
Yep. Second pouring where you've got some blank area.
Okay, now do you see how this is kind of coming together, where I'm just going in a circle and tilting it off a little bit. And then I'll probably, you won't see this part pretty much, but I'm going to come back my way a little bit, because that paint is off center. There's a lot on the edges, but I want to bring a little back to the center. Okay, now this to me looks like a planet. It looks like if it was in outer space, there would be some, formations of gases, maybe cloudy type things. that would be in front of the planet. So I'm tilting it now back and forth just to even out the paint. I don't want a lot of paint on one side and then really thin on the other because it won't dry very well. It'll crack. Sorry, you can't see this right now. All right.
You want to pull the paint so it covers the whole darn
Right.
thing.
Now I'm going to put it on my, well, for right now, I'm just going to put it down. I need to get a paper towel. By the way, if you don't have paper towels close by, have somebody get one for you. Sometimes I use regular kitchen towels, and sometimes I use these like little baby wipes because they're already moistened. So whatever you have close by. Okay, now I'm going to put it on my little stand here. And then I'll show you how I clean up the edges. To transfer it onto those cups, have a grown-up help you. Sometimes these things get a little slippery, and it'd be nice to have another set of hands. You know, when you start doing this type of art, sometimes you have high expectations of what you think it'll look like. And a lot of times it will, but there are a lot of times it doesn't. So do not be concerned that it doesn't look like your friends or mine or Oliver's. Everybody's will look different, and everybody has different colors. Okay, so in your kit you had a little stick. You had a couple, and what I like to do is just run the stick along the edges very carefully, not on the top and not on the side, but just underneath, and that's going to catch the drips. And once you have the drips off, that paint's going to stop moving. If the drips are there, it's going to pull the paint. That's just like gravity. It's like being in outer space. You know, you've got to just be able to, you know, control a little bit there. Okay, so I've already gone all the way around, and I love these colors. I don't know if the camera picks it up that well, but okay, so this one is pretty much done. I see a couple spots where I have just like missed it on the edge, so you should have just a little bit in your cup, and what you could just do is just pour it right over that edge. Come on. Yeah, something like that. Now I'll smooth that out. I might just tilt it a little bit. Well, now we know that that's where the sun is hitting the planet, right? Okay, then I'll go back with the stick and catch those drips. Okay, I'm going to put this away, and we're going to now turn this over to Oliver. He's going to show you how he layers his cup, and then he will do a straight pour.
All right, so I have my cup. I'll point the camera down so you can see it. So you have your cup here. These are all of my colors. I have a black, like a medium blue, a white, a nice orangey yellow, and an almost aqua blue that I think looks really nice. So we'll make sure they're all shooken up, like Nancy said. And then we'll lay them, just like Nancy did. I think I'm going to start, and you have to remember, what you put in first is what's going to be on top, because when you pour it, it's going to come out on top. So I'm going to start with, I'll start with a little bit of white. You just pour it in on the side so they layer all nice. I'll put a little bit more. And And then I'll go with my medium blue. I'll layer just a bit more. What that looks like. It's looking really good so far. And I'll go with the lighter blue, and hopefully they'll layer really good. And then now I'm gonna go back. Actually, I'll do some black. I changed my mind. I'll do some black. Just a tad, so it's not too overwhelming. And then I'll go back to just a bit of white. Right there. And then I'll do some orange. And I think a bit more black just to layer it out. And then let's move back to some of the blues. We're going to go with this medium blue again. Layer it really nice. Make sure you're hitting that side. If you don't hit the side, they're all mixed together, and you don't want that. You want it to layer, and it'll look really nice when you pour. I'll move just a bit more orange. We'll go in with our lighter aqua-ish blue. That's what the inside's looking like. I don't know if you can see that well. Not too bad. I'll do a bit more black. And we're going to do this, like Nancy said, to have about 2/3 or 3/4. I think some white again will look really nice. And then how about some orange? It's getting there. It's almost full. Some more of the medium blue. And then I'll go a touch of black. All right, it's almost full right there. We'll go back with the light. I'm kind of dripping a bit. That's okay. Let me wipe that off so I don't get that anywhere. And then some orange again. I think that's good. So there it is, all the colors there. Let me put my paints to the side. I have a little container that I'll probably throw away after. I'm gonna put that on top of there. And we're gonna do just the pour technique. I'll move this up a bit more. Let me center this for you so it looks really nice. And then we're just gonna pour straight in the middle.
Oliver?
Yes?
I forgot to tell you, when you use a paper cup like that, just pinch it a little bit to make a spout. Yeah, that works. It's easier for you to pour, okay?
All right. Yep, so like Nancy said, with these paper cups, they're kind of flexible. So you can pinch them just a bit, not too much so it overfills, but you can pinch it just a bit here, and it creates, like Nancy said, kind of a spout. So very slowly, we'll pour in the middle. Just keep letting it pour. Don't move it too much. Keep a steady pour. It'll look really good, I promise you. Keep going. Keep getting that consistent pour until it all comes out. Keep going. And then when it's all good, cover it so it doesn't drip across your painting. And that's the pouring part. It'll look a little different than the volcanic, but it's still really good and it's really fun. So we're going to let that spread out just a bit. Let it spread out. And then when it's done spreading out, we'll pick it up and we'll start tilting. Mine is a little off center since I poured it a little here, but it's okay. I'll pick it up and I'll start tilting it slowly so it doesn't smear too bad, but so it moves that paint across, and that'll reveal all the layers really nicely, get them nice and spread out. Like Nancy said before, try to get like all the middle covered, then move to the edges. That's looking really good if you ask me. I'll tilt it a bit over here, a bit down. Sorry, you won't be able to see this part too well, but I'm tipping it a bit over here. And then I'm going to move it back just a tad. Let it pour down slowly. And it'll look really good. All the layers will just spread out. So you can't see this, you're just seeing the back of the soon-to-be planet. But I'll show it to you in just a second. Mine's getting right around to the edges now. Pour it down there, get that edge. And then I'll pour it back. Right around there, pour it this way. Make sure you're getting all the edges. And back so I don't lose as much paint. Trying to get each and every edge. I'm missing just a bit by my thumb here. So I'm going to get it there. And you want to make sure you're not touching the top too much where there's paint, or else you'll get a fingerprint. And I think that's fairly even. Maybe I'll push it a bit back here. Got to make sure it's in the center. So like Nancy said, it'll dry nice and even. Won't get any cracks or anything like that. And the outcome will be really good. So I can put it down there. And I'll set it like that. Wipe my hands off. And then I'll take one of my popsicle sticks here. Gently will run it against the edge of this and get all that paint that's just sitting there. Get it all off of the edge of the canvas like this. I got just a bit more on this side. I think that's looking really good so far.
Looks awesome, Oliver.
Thank you. And I think that's it for the straight pour, Nancy.
That is excellent. Very, very well done. I'm sure these kids are looking at yours and saying, I can do that. You made it very simple, to the point, and we're going to continue. I'm going to do now a straight pour, but I'm going to give it a little wiggle. And that will be the next one. And then Oliver, after me, will do a volcano. So the people that haven't started yet, you can choose to do a straight pour with me, just like or a straight pour, but with a little ring, or you can wait and watch Oliver do a volcano later. So whatever one you choose. Thank you very much. Well done. So when I switch colors, then I get a new cup. If I was going to continue with the same colors as the first one, I could use the cup over, but I'm going to use a different cup so I don't have a variety, too many colors in there. Shake the paints. All right, let's go. I like starting with white too. For some reason, I always feel like when that's the last color out, it kind of makes a bright center, which is nice. You don't have to put a lot in. Okay, so I did white, and now I'm going to do some, it's not, this one is gold. I think it's metallic gold. Again, down the side. And then I'm going to go to orange. And then I'm going to go to red. This is a very bright red. It's really pretty. And then I am going to do blue. So what's going to happen when I put the blue next to that red? I bet you're going to think it's going to look awful, but it'll end up looking like a little purplish. Now this is the dark blue. Really dark. Okay, I'm going to go back to, I guess I'll do white again. This is the nice thing about this type of art. You can do whatever you want. It doesn't have to be in the same order. Might make it look a little different. This one probably will end up looking more like rainbow colors. So that was gold. Here's a little orange, a little red. For any of you that have pets in your house, you'll want to make sure that when you have finished, it's not anywhere near them, because they would like to be part of that painting, I'm sure. And so you'll want to make sure that it can go in a room where the furries can't get at it. Okay, I'm putting in a little more white, a little more gold. More orange. This is going to be pretty bright. Red. Down at the end of these bottles. And I'm going to finish with the really dark blue. Now, like Oliver said, when you put that first color in your cup, it's going to be the last color out of the cup. I'm going to put a little more dark here. Okay, I should be good. right, so I'll get back my turntable. And blend it. All right, so this is going to be a straight pour with a little bit of a circle. And I'm going to pinch the cup. I'm going to stand up on this one. Okay.
So they can see what you're doing.
All right, here we go. Nice and steady. Now, instead of me jiggling it, I'm just going to turn the turntable. Just see if I like how it looks. And I do. That looks great. Now I'm going to start jiggling. Don't juggle, jiggle. If I stand, and if you stand, it's kind of nice to lean against the table. It'll make your hands steadier. I don't know why, but it does. Now when I get to the end, I kind of like dip it in and quick pull it up. And let it settle for a little bit. Spread it around. I would have fun just spinning this whole thing, but I think Allison might not like that. Okay, I'm going to take this away and tilt so you can see it. Get that glare out of there. Yeah, okay. Take your time. And then once it gets close to the edge, that's when I start to turn it. Remember, the more you stretch it, the more you're going to see these rings form. And there's plenty of paint on here. Okay, so I went over that first edge. Now I'm going to turn it. I'm going to try to come back to the middle a little bit. And then I'll go down this side. So off to the second side. I'm trying very careful just to touch the edge here. It's hard to do when it's so thin on that edge. Now if you can hold it with one hand and you see like a little blank spot, you could pull up some of the paint on your work surface and just dab it just a little bit. Don't rub it in, just dab it. And then it will stick nicely. Now we're getting towards just one more turn and I think we got it. And bring it back to the middle a little. Can't see this part. A little darker than I wanted. Okay. What?
It's very planety.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to hold it again and put up some of this paint on this edge here. I'm not crazy about the center of this, so I'm going to try to pull that off a little. As long as the paint can keep moving, you can keep working at it. If it doesn't look like it's moving, then you better stop, because you probably won't have enough paint to move anymore. Now I know I had a lot of dark blue and red, but I don't think I like where they are, so I'm just going to keep stretching until it won't let me stretch anymore. I want to get rid of that blue. I love blue, but it's not working with this one for me. Yeah, I like that better. So I'm getting some of that blue off. Okay, now I'm going to bring it back to the middle again. And then I'm going to go down to the side that is closest to the table.
Jupiter. All right.
Allison says it's Jupiter. Have to really be patient with this type of art. And it does take a lot of practice. This doesn't happen perfectly every time. Okay, so there's a little fingerprint I did, which I think you can see. I'm just going to throw some paint on there. And then we'll let that run off the edge. Okay, I'm going to put it back on those little red things. Yeah, those little red things. Thank you. The teacher wasn't prepared.
Oh, I need more?
Yeah.
More of that?
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's right. Okay, these are just little silicone holders. I think these were like baking muffin cups or something. I don't know. But okay, so now I have another little fingerprint. I'm dabbing very lightly just to get rid of that print. And I might want to make this a little lighter, and I still have some paint in here. I think what I'm going to do is pour a little in my cup and then pour it back down here. So let's do a little gold and maybe a little of the red. And how about, I didn't use that color. Let's do this one, blue. And I'm just going to swirl it a little bit. I want it to mix a little together, but not too much. And we're just going to see how this looks. If I don't like it, I'll tilt it off. I go through a lot of gloves. All right, now before Oliver starts his, we need to find out how many have not done a pouring yet.
Yeah, so
Let's find that out.
let's look here. If anybody's got one that's kind of that is kind of done, why don't you, if you could move your camera and show Nancy what you've kind of created, because she's been doing a lot of pouring and not a lot of watching.
So I have a white, a really nice red, a orange, a yellow, and a nice dark, really good looking blue. So I'll make sure these are all shaken up. I'll get my cup ready, and I will start pouring them in. So I'm gonna start with a bit of white again, just a touch to begin with. Then let's go in my orange. Layer that down. Looking good. And then I'll try the yellow. See how that looks. And then I'm going to go in with the blue. And I hope it'll maybe give a little bit of contrast and it'll show through. And I hope it'll look really good. I'm going to add a touch of white back in. Then I'll go with the red. I did a decent amount of red on that one, I think. A touch of blue again. Just a touch. That's what it's looking like so far. A lot of colors. I hope it'll pour really good. And then we'll go back in with the yellow. And maybe a bit of white. We're going to go back in with the orange. And then we'll do some blue again. We'll do a bit of yellow, I think. How about we try some red? I think it's looking really good so far. I'm going to add a bit of white again. Get some of that lightness coming through. Maybe a touch of blue right there. And I think we should add some orange back in. A bit of red. Layering up these colors, making sure to get it on the side of the cup so they really layer really nicely. I think just a few more colors in, and we'll be all full and ready to pour. Going in with the white right now. Here's what it's looking like. I think it's looking pretty good. I hope it'll pour just as good. And we'll go a bit of yellow. And maybe a bit of blue to finish it off. See if we can get this out. And I think we're all done and ready to pour. So let me put my colors away. Move my cup aside just for now. I'll put this down. I'm going to get my palette here. Lift this up so you can see me pouring a bit better. And then we're doing the volcanic pour. So I'm going to make sure I have my cup nice and steady in my hand. And we're going to put our wood, our planet, right on top and carefully flip. And careful, we're going to put it right on the top of that. And then we're going to lift up and catch it so it doesn't drip too much on it and ruin the flow of it. Let me wipe my hand out. And we're just letting it spread out. Let the paint do its thing, spread out as much as it needs, and then we'll get ready to smooth it out. Let me grab some more tissues. All right, I have some more. Make sure my hands are clean. And then we're going to pick it up and start to pour. Do it nice and slow. Let those colors stretch. You can see that I got a lot of going on. It's a lot of blues. I think if I stretch it out, I'll get some of those warmer colors out soon. I'm going to tip it back towards me. Get this part covered up really nice. And this way a bit. We'll tip it down like this. And right around there. Tip it down. Down and around. Do it slowly. Make sure I'm getting these edges. It's dripping a bit now, and that's okay. Making sure it's covering that entire edge. Bringing it down here. Tipping, tipping. I think this is looking really good. When I flipped it, some of the paint dripped on it, and it's getting this cool, interesting design. Pulling it the rest of the way. I got one little bit on the edge there. That's getting all covered up. And I've gotten this nice little like sunset color over here and a jumble of colors over there with some oranges back in it. And I think we're going to set that down. Back on our station. And I'm going to let that sit. We're going to make sure your hands are gloves. I don't have gloves, but that's okay. Make sure they're all wiped down. Grab your popsicle stick. And again, maybe move your cup to the side. And again, carefully scrape the edges, this little bottom section down. all around it very carefully. You don't want to tip your painting up, so you want to be very careful with this. I think that's all done. I do have some edges right here I might want to fix up. So carefully, I might get some of this and just carefully dab it. I don't want to make it look like my fingerprints are all over here. So I'll be careful. Get that edge, very lightly, gently dabbing. And that's all covered. And that's it for the volcanic pour from me.
Thank you, Oliver.
Oliver, one more time, would you show us your face?
Yep.
Thumbs up. Everybody, thumbs up for Oliver. I said that if we had time, and we do, I would show you how I take one of my planets. This one is dry. This one was done a few weeks ago. And the back still has all the tape on it. And what I'm going to do is show you how I put on some varnish. The varnish I like the best is called Liquitex High Gloss Varnish. It also comes in gloss, it also comes in matte, and I think satin. So depending on your level of pizzazz, you can pick out any of those finishes. This is a 32-ounce bottle, and what I do is I put a little in a cup, like about that much.
If they don't have access to this brand, Nancy, would any acrylic varnish work? Okay.
There is a lot on the market. This one tends to be the one I go to do all the time. I have the best luck with this one.
You can get it in a much smaller bottle,
right,
too.
Much smaller. You can buy it at Michael's. If you were doing something that was going to go outside, this I have found to be one of my favorite spray varnishes. Do not do it inside. It's got too many fumes, and this is a grown-up exercise, not a children's exercise. And this one is called Minwax Indoor Outdoor Spar Urethane. It has a wonderful finish, and it is, both of these have UV protection, which means it's going to not fade. And if you've seen a lot of the hearts that are out there, the ones that I have done, I have used either the Liquitex or this brand, and they both work really nice. This one you would spray straight on, back and forth, you know, just nice and slow, and read the directions. It's pretty simple. This one I put on with a rag, and I'm going to show you how I do it now, but I don't put it on at that strength. I actually water it down, and I can assure you the verbiage on the bottle says do not water down, but I do. And I use distilled water, and that's important because regular tap water might have some little stuff in it that would make it, I don't know, you know, there's just something in regular tap water. Like in the building I'm in, it's very, very old, and I would never consider drinking the water out of this building, but so that's why I use distilled water. And I use distilled water in almost everything I do with painting, whether it's watercolor, acrylics. It's just a nice, clean way to know that it's safe. So I put in equal amounts of water. I just swirled around a little bit. That's all I do. Another pair of gloves. You can probably reuse your gloves, but I don't have a water supply in this studio, so it's hard for me to clean them without going down the hall, down the stairway, and then coming back up. And it doesn't work in a demo, so I use multiple gloves. So I've taken a piece of an old t-shirt, and I used this one just a couple days ago, so it's still pretty pliable. And I just kind of roll it up a little bit, and I just, now I had some in this old cup, so whatever on here is coming on. I just rub it down. All I do, the first pass, remember your planted is very dry, and it kind of gets sticky, all right? That's all I do. Just go over it once and then put it aside. And then do something for 5 minutes. Okay, so in that 5 minutes, I'm going to show you something else on the back of planets. This one's already had a coat of varnish on it. You can see how shiny it is. Let me go backwards a minute. You know, something that we didn't talk about. When you pour the planets today, they look really shiny. When they dry, they tend to be more dull and flat. But the paint that you have today has some varnish in it. It's made by the Michaels brand. It's called Artist Loft Ready Mix Pour Paints. So there is some varnish in here. That doesn't mean you're done. It means that it's going to dry with a nice sheen to it. All right, this has already dried. And usually I wait 5 minutes, but it's very warm in here. It's almost 76 degrees. So it's good for me to varnish in this type of climate. All right, this is kind of what I want this one to look like. So all I do is I go back in with my rag and dip it in the varnish. Squeeze it out. You don't want it dripping wet. Just squeeze some out and then do it again. See this green? That's a little of the green that came off of the finish. That's all right. It's not going to be much. You're going to go over this once. And the second time around, it's a little easier because it's not dry anymore. I'll go the other way. Try not to get streaks. I am right now, but the light is kind of throwing me off here.
And remember, you don't want to start this process until
No,
your
it's
planet
dry.
is fully dry, probably tomorrow.
Or even the next day.
Or even the next day.
Okay, so this is 2 coats. I put my rag back into the little jar. I have some little tops for these, but you can use any type of jar. Don't put it away like this. It's got to be covered, otherwise it will become just as hard as a rock. Now this is probably not even 2 to 3 minutes. So I'll do 4 or 5 coats, and then you're going to see a dramatic difference in how this looks. This to me is simple. The brushes, I did brushes for years, but I could not get away from all those strokes. They were always there, and it was kind of frustrating. So I tried the rag, and I'm much happier with that. And what I do is I line up whatever I have to varnish all over the tables, and I just go from one to the other. And by the time I'm done, the first one out starts all over again. This is the simplest way to varnish, and you're going to have a nice, clean, glossy look, or matte. If you want it matte looking, you can do that. Okay, this is almost dry. Not quite. Got an elbow print now, but it's all right. It's part of the solar system. It's bound to have some little fingerprints here and there. So this is an adult project. The grown-ups, this is not for the kids to do. And you may contact Macy for my email address. If you have any issues on this, I'm happy to help you out over the phone. But I thought it'd be kind of nice for you guys to see how quick and easy this is. Once you actually have your planets totally dry and sealed with varnish, you have to decide if you want to hang them, if you want to put them on a little table easel, and I'll show you how it looks both ways. Or what I'm going to do with some of mine is I'm going to drill a little hole, and I'm going to hang them from the ceiling so that they can, like, you know, be hanging up high. Okay, Allison just got me an easel, so let me show you how that would look. So you could have it in your room or on top of whatever area you sit so you can look at it. Doesn't that look nice? Okay, so this has a couple coats. If you see a little speck of something, like that's part of the t-shirt, I'm just going to pull that off. And now I'm going to go back and we'll do one more. But you get the idea. It's not hard at all. And it's very nice to be able to finish this in your own house. Okay, so I squeezed it out. And I'm going to do it again. You can do a circular motion, which is really the simplest for planets. Done. Okay. And then I'll give it one more pass, and then that's all I'll show you on that. When I put this one away, I'll pull out the other one and I'll show you the back side of it, how it looks when you peel off that tape. And then what you can do with that back side, you got a couple options. You are able to actually leave it the way it is, not do anything, if you want to keep it inside your house. If for any reason you want this outside, you've got to seal that back as well as the front, because wood will work. Wood is alive, you know, it's going to change if you put it out in the elements. Okay, so I'm going to move this guy. All right, this is one that has a coat of varnish, and on the back, you all have the same thing. I'm going to start pulling the tape. I'm not going to take it all off, but if you go really slow, see how easy that comes off? And then underneath here was just a little bit of freezer paper, and that's just going to fall right off. See what a nice clean edge that makes? Okay, I'm not going to go all the way around, but then this you can just tear right off. And that is a nice finish, but it feels like, it's not rough, but it feels like it should have some varnish on it. So if I wanted to do that, this would be the time. You would make sure that the bottom of this was on something that would maybe be protected by a sheet of plastic, because you don't want this to lay on a cup and then get maybe like a ring indent. Or like when I use these little red things, they would probably make an indentation too. So have it like on a plastic bag, on a cup like this, and then decide if you're going to varnish it or not. The other thing you can do, I'll just put this one back. Here's another one. It has a coat of varnish. And this one was a ring pour with a little bit of a jiggle. This one, I am actually going to take off the back, just like, I'm not going to take it off here. You know what I just showed you. But once that tape is off, I'm going to pour on this just like we did on the front. Put this down on a piece of plastic, and you can pour, if you have any leftover paints, make you another cup, and then you could have it two-sided, and that's what I would do when I would hang it, so that when it twirls around, you're going to see a planet on each side, or the other side of the planet, I should say. Doesn't have to be the same colors, but I'll probably keep, you know, some golds and browns in there just to make it look like it. Or you can take a paintbrush and just go over the back. The next thing you can do is take a permanent marker pen. This is a Sharpie. I wouldn't go too thin. This one is a fine point, and that works. Write your name. Pretend this is the back and it's all finished. You know, put your name on the back, and last name if you'd like, and the date you did this, because believe it or not, down the road you're going to say, I wonder when I did that. You know, was I in grade school, high school? How old was I? You know, so it's like taking a photo of yourself, and then if you want to have that printed, you could actually put it on the back, and that would be kind of cool to have the picture of you doing the pour, a picture of yourself, and then the last thing I would tell you is make a title for your painting. Mine, I haven't done that yet, but I will. I like naming things, so let's just say you are somebody that loves Venus. I would call it something, maybe like my Venus dream, or I want to walk on the moon, or whatever you want to call it. I think it's just kind of fun to do that. Well,
would be
I
great.
don't have a lot more to show you other than couple of pieces that I did that are of the entire universe. Not the entire, you know that. But. And this will be something that I'm going to do this summer with a class. And I think Macy can talk to you about it. But this was a pouring that I did of all of these colors. So every little thing that you see on here was an original pouring. I didn't pour a circle, I poured this whole thing. And then when it dried, I took something, let's just say this is a bowl, and I put that bowl up there and I drew out the edges of that planet. And then I went back in with black and blue paint with a brush and painted everything around all those little circles. And then when it was totally dry, I put in some highlights, like right here you see more white. I wanted that to really shine. And it's always important to put your highlights on the same side of the planet so that like when the sun would be coming down, it would shine on that tip and that tip and that one. And then I spattered with a toothbrush some white, kind of wet paint, not real wet, but just enough, and you flick it around to make your stars. And this one has not been varnished yet, but that's something that is not hard to do. There's another one I did. This one is varnished. See if I can see that. But you can get an idea that this, and this were all part of the same colors. Drew the circles, left everything in the circle to become the planet, and just paint around the edges. And then in here, I put a little more white paint on the edges to make it look like, you know, the gases that would come off a planet. Okay, so that's it for show and tell, other than one more. This one is fairly big, but it's kind of a good idea where I only did a half a circle and then just painted this top side black. So this kind of looks to me like the edge of a planet. The blues, the yellows, the greens really look kind of cool. So there's all kinds of things you can do with this. And I hope I help you learn a little bit more about how easy it is to paint. It doesn't take experience, but it does take practice. I want to leave you also with some words of advice. If you really had a good time doing this, show somebody else. Show somebody else how fun this was. This is something that kids can do on a Zoom class together. I'm betting that most of you see each other a couple times a week, every day. I don't know. I mean, you know, if school's not in session or you can't be hanging out together, do a Zoom class together. I mean, this is a great way to spend some time when we are trying to be safe. Okay, thanks so much. And I really had a good time. Thank you, Oliver, and thank you everybody for putting this together. I love doing workshops, play shops for kids. Okay, take care. Have a good day.